What's up, guys? Dr. Jason Thomsen here. I'm coming at you from my car, hands-free. And in this video, I'm going to share my secrets and my tips on how to bridge that gap between graduate school and real world. So I am Dr. Jason Thomsen, like I said. I am a chiropractor in Utah. So a little story about myself. So when I was in chiropractic school, I knew my dad was also a chiropractor. I knew I kind of had plans to go to join the practice with him. And in school they teach you amazing things about how to be a doctor and how to treat patients and understanding the human body and things like that. But they really do you a disservice when it comes to actually preparing you business-wise for the real world. And so towards the end of chiropractic school, you take a handful of classes, 2-3 years into school at this point, on how to grow and how to kind of build your business plan. And really, there's not a whole lot of I guess realism to this, because you basically just kind of plug in numbers and you just kind of play around and you kind of see okay, well, if I do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to make this kind of money. Well, that's great and all, except you don't really take into account insurances being ridiculous and people not wanting to just say, okay, let me give you all my money to get service and all these different things. And so I remember specifically there was one project where we had to figure out how many patients and how many different things we needed to do as far as services and treatments to really break even. And I remember my dad sent me his fee schedule. He's like, oh, here's what we do, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, oh, this is great. Like, this is awesome. I can use this. This is going to be great. And so I punch all these numbers and I'm like, okay, perfect. Here's our game plan. Here's how we're going to grow the practice. And I remember very vividly my dad saying, oh yeah, these are great ideas. And then a few months later, I graduate and I think about, okay, well, how are we going to implement the things that we just did in this project? And I realized, oh crap, I don't really know how to do any of this. And so I had to spend a lot of time and really figure out and earn my stripes on how to actually grow a practice realistically without blowing a ton of money into your practice. So that's why in this video I'm going to share my 3 steps on how to bridge that gap between schooling and the real world. So step number 1 is all about recognizing that school is school and what you learn is very textbook. I don't really know the best way to describe that, but realistically, if you learn anything in school about business, it's probably, at least from my experience, it was from a doctor who hadn't really practiced in a lot of years. He kind of grew up in the Mercedes 80s where, he grew his practice in around that time, and it wasn't really, applicable to what we were doing. And so step number 1 is just recognizing that and realizing that, okay, you need to actually hit the ground and study and kind of put your own heart and soul into research and figuring out what works. Step number 2, and this is kind of, I could probably talk about this for days and days and days, but step number 2 is figuring out who exactly you want to serve. So step number 1, we figured out, okay, we got to admit that what we learned in school maybe isn't the most realistic for growing a practice or bridging that gap, I guess. And so that's why step number 2 is recognizing who your perfect avatar is or who your perfect patient is. Now, I remember my dad, when he was really growing up his practice, he prided himself and he was really niched down in the Medicare world. I remember him telling me one time that he loved being everyone's favorite adopted grandson. And he thrived that way. He loved serving the older generation. He loved helping them, and he actually grew a great practice that way. And so when you figure out who you want to serve and the best way to do that, that kind of guides you on, okay, well, where are those people? So are they moms who have small kids where their husbands are at work all day? Are they CrossFit athletes who are at the gym early in the morning? Are they are they dancers? Are they gymnasts? Are they people who sit at their desk all day? Once you've kind of figured out who you want to serve, that's a great first step in figuring out, okay, well, how do I get in front of those people? And in another video, I'll talk more about identifying your avatar and that perfect patient and really figuring out how to get after them. But that leads into step number 3. And this itself was probably the most critical and crucial part of my journey from bridging that gap from, okay, here is school and here is real world. And step number 3 is having a mentor. So I have 2 incredible mentors in my professional life. One of them is, I mentioned him a little bit before, is Russell Brunson. So Russell Brunson is an amazing marketer. He basically grew this software company from scratch and has done several billions of dollars in sales and growing and helping other people make millions of dollars. And outside of the software, he is an incredible marketer, and he understands, and everything he teaches you is very applicable. And so when I got out of school and I'm like, okay, I kind of accidentally stumbled upon him, I realized, man, this guy knows what he's doing. And I literally consumed as much of his content as I could. I watched videos, I listened to podcasts, I read books. I literally became a Russell Brunson super fan and really absorbed everything he said. And I knew, based on his proof and his social proof, that if I just did what he said, I'd have success. But the other, probably more important mentor I had is actually my dad. And so when I joined his practice, I kind of had a good few steps ahead of a lot of the kids I graduated with, because my dad had been practicing for 20 plus years at that point. And I actually got this really good opportunity to step into the real world and have someone literally next to me the entire time and guide me by the hand and show me, okay, here's what you do. Here's how what you did with this in school, you can kind of tweak here, and really kind of purified that process of, okay, here's what you learned in school, here's what you actually do in real life. And so I will be the first to admit, I was very spoiled. I had more than 4 years of incredible mentorship by him, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, because I know I would not be the doctor I am if I did not have his guidance in my life. And so I want to challenge you guys to find that mentor. And if you're in PT school, or you just graduated from PT school, if you're chiro, if you're whatever, trying to grow your healthcare practice, step number 3 to kind of bridging that gap is finding a mentor that can take you to where you want to go. And so if you don't have a mentor, I've only been in practice for about 6 years, but I've helped a lot of other people kind of figure out their way through chiropractic school and into the real world. And I've actually created a free online group where you can join and actually absorb all the things that I've learned, all the lessons I've learned, all the things that I've studied. Starting to put it all in one place, so you can hop in and you could just absorb and really grow and really shorten that learning curve, so you can find success in your practice. So I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. If you're listening to this on podcast, you could go to skool.com and search for Clinic Growth Compass. Now that's SKOOL.com, searching for Clinic Growth Campus. Like I said, it's a free group. It's in the early stages. I'm growing it, but I'm really trying to provide the most amount of value so people like you can grow your practice without having that same steep learning curve that I did. So that's all I got today. I am at the office. I'm going to go in and treat some patients. Have a great day today, and I'll see you in the next video.